that celebrates the grind, the late nights, the endless goals, the never enough mindset. But what if the real untapped fuel for success isn't in working harder, but in feeling more? What if pleasure, intimacy, and connection were not indulges we had to fit in after the work is done, but the very foundation of our creativity, confidence, and ability to perform at our best? Welcome back, listeners, to the Cosmic Confluence Podcast, and I'm your host, Sana. And today's conversation, listeners, is about flipping this very script. We're exploring what it means to be a pleasure powered achiever, someone who understands that intimacy isn't a side quest, but the main power source. And we couldn't have a better guide than Susan Bratton, who transformed her own marriage, built a global platform, and has helped millions discover the link between deeper intimacy and greater life success. So, this is going to be about science, soul, and a whole lot of real talk. So, with that, Susan, welcome to the show. And I'm really, really pumped up for this conversation.
Sana, I love that intro. Oh, that was so beautiful. I'm going to have to get a copy of that after the episode. What a nice lead in to the notion of pleasure as a performance enhancer.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you so much. And yeah, with this we begin with understanding this. Because our listeners will like, oh my goodness, is it like something? Is there a connection? I mean, this shift from hustle to pleasure power, I think it's kind of a bit of an alien, topic of conversation to all of us. So you
Mhm.
have said that, Susan, that intimacy can be one of the most overlooked performance enhancers for high achievers. So for someone who is, like in that hamster's wheel of chasing goals through pure discipline, how do you help them believe that pleasure is actually a serious success strategy?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I love to speak to high achievers, entrepreneurs, bodybuilders, people with growth mindsets, anyone people who like mastery generally. Because when you have a growth mindset and you're a lifetime learner, all I need to do is remind you that your body is, a lot of people are really comfortable with the idea that they need to get a lot of sleep, good sleep. We're wearing our aura rings and tracking our sleep metrics. And people understand that they need to feed their bodies with good nutrition. And people understand that they need to work out and have movement. But there's a fourth factor that often goes under discussed, not a topic that's covered enough, and that fourth factor is intimacy, because there are very tangible benefits of using pleasure as a performance enhancer. And when you talk to a growth mindset person and you
Mhm.
explain to them, look, you're gonna get a boost in your endocrine production. You're gonna improve your hormone function, your master signaling molecules. You're gonna lower your stress by lowering your cortisol by increasing your oxytocin. You're going to improve your creativity because not only are you getting a flush of blood flow to your brain when you're intimate, but it supports your creativity. And really, it's going to improve your communication and your connection to people outside the bedroom, because the bedroom is really a training ground for the kind of communication that's more difficult because we're raised in such a repressed state around our sexuality. That if you
Mhm.
become brave enough to have conversations behind closed doors with your intimate partner, it's really a training ground for managing to hold the sensation of difficult conversations in your business life. And I think
Mhm.
the other thing that's really important about it is that there's a lot of confidence and self assurance that comes with someone who has a really hot sex life at home. And I wanted to tell you as well that I've been married for 34 years. And my intimate relationship with my husband has never been hotter because obviously what I do is I teach passionate lovemaking for a living. That's my career, is teaching pleasuring skills, bedroom communication, intimate wellness and health. And I've been working in business with my husband for 20 of those 34 years, and we're both workaholics. We worked until 9 p.m. last night. And, when you work in your business together and
Mhm.
you work from home and you live together and you're married for decades, the chances of you having a hot sex life, and we're in our 60s. The chances of you having a hot sex life, if you do all of those things but don't focus on learning how to be a better lover over time, you've given up one of the 4 factors of longevity and
Mhm.
of cognitive function, of personal power, of confidence, of communication, of stress and reduction and resilience. All of these things go by the wayside unless you put your attention on it. And what people don't understand is that intimacy, sexuality, orgasmic pleasure are learned skills like everything else in this world. We're born knowing how to procreate. That's pretty easy to do. But how to be a really great, loving partner, how to give incredible pleasure, how to keep the fire burning for each other, those are learned skills.
Mm. Wow, wow, Susan, that absolutely makes sense, you know.
Mm.
Absolutely. I'll come to the scientific part of this, but more towards the fact that there are listeners out there, there are people out there who may not have a partner right now, and
Yeah.
may feel left out of this conversation. So, can someone still be pleasure power achiever without being in a romantic relationship, Susan?
Yeah, of course, there's solo pleasuring. And frankly, solo pleasuring is as important as partnered pleasuring. There are good ways to go about it and bad ways to go about it, just like eating junk food or eating a nutritious meal. You can um, learn how to finely play your body in ways that generate all of the physiologic benefits of partnered pleasuring. So whether that's the release of neurotransmitters, the release of, a cascade of feel-good hormones like dopamine and serotonin,
Mm-hmm.
the brain and cognitive function and vascular system boosting of orgasmic pleasure, the creativity of fantasy and thinking about what turns you on and learning about what things are exciting to you and imagining them in your mind. The touch that you give yourself is extremely nurturing, and learning how to, for example, for men, the number one thing that men struggle with generally is what's called ejaculatory choice. An ejaculatory choice is being able to understand that orgasm and ejaculation are separate systems in your body. Most men just think they go together. They're just it's all one thing, but it's actually two separate things. And you can separate ejaculation from orgasm so that you can begin to train yourself to have ejaculatory choice, which is you can ejaculate when you want to, but there's no need to ejaculate. You can hold your chi, you can maintain your desire and your turn on, or you can release that sensation. But when you begin to become someone who can feel energetically in their body orgasmic pleasure without ejaculation, then you have the ability to last a long time. You get rid of performance anxiety around coming too fast before your partner's completed. You can think about it as a training ground, a time to practice during solo pleasuring so that when you are with a partner, and frankly, there are some people, about 1% of the population doesn't have an interest in being with a partner and they just want to do what they want to do. And it's interesting that high achievement people about 3% of the population, and about 1% of that is an overlap of asexual people. So another 2% of people tend to be people who are very involved intellectually in their work. They skew higher educated, and they're not interested in even being with a partner. They tend to skew higher educated. They tend to be people who are achieving things in different areas, like they're a scientist or a musician or a composer, things like that. They're mastering something else, and so they're leaving their sexuality behind because they don't have time for it. They're not interested in it. There are other things they wanna do with their time.
Mhm.
But then there's, 97 other percent of people who are interested in having a sexual relationship, but who just need to be encouraged to do it. And the other thing that I think is really important is that for the female body, learning how to give ourselves pleasure, it does the same thing as it does for our male-bodied partners. It grounds us, it calms our nervous systems, it reboots our energy, it lowers our stress. Women, we release oxytocin when we orgasm. And so it's great for nervous system, vascularization, cognitive function, all of these things, but it's also really good for generating more oxytocin. And oxytocin is a master signaling hormone that actually lowers or modulates cortisol from stress. The other thing that's really good for women is that when you self pleasure, and I know that you have a lot of American listeners, but that you are also based in India. And in India now, there is a good movement and good brands who are beginning to supply people with pleasure tools. And I think that having pleasure tools, they call them sex toys, but I don't really feel that they're toys. I feel that they're tools because what tools do is they actually awaken and activate the female genital system, the yoni. That's a beautiful Sanskrit word from your country for the female genital system. And what's nice about activating the mechanoreceptors, the corpuscles, the nerve endings, the somatosensory cortex of your brain is that you begin to use these tools to stimulate all of these different cellular signaling systems in the nervous system that then send more pleasure signals to the brain. So the path to orgasm becomes easier through solo pleasuring with tools. When you're with a partner, you actually achieve orgasm more easily, which lowers female performance anxiety. So a lot of people think that if you use a pleasure tool, you're actually using it as like a crutch, or you're going to debilitate your own body's orgasmic sensory pleasure potential when you're with a partner. And that's exactly the opposite. That's a shame based repression construct that is completely untrue. Orgasmic activation, expanding your orgasmic potential, can be supported by using pleasure tools. So when a woman is delving into her fantasy, expanding her orgasm, learning how to have an orgasm, becoming multi-orgasmic, extending her orgasmic and expanding her orgasmic palette, she's actually supporting her career and her ability to move forward with her work and her business and her accomplishments.
That is so powerful, Susan, especially in the solo pleasure that you explained so beautifully and so clearly. I really like that because that gives a kind of sense of agency, especially to all the women out there.
Yeah.
I really felt really invigorated.
Good. Yeah, one of the things that I do really a big part of my job, Sana, because I'm not a therapist. I'm an author of passionate lovemaking techniques and bedroom communication skills. So I publish books and programs, 44 books and programs. 10 of the work I carry forward the lineage of my mentors. And then I've built upon that for decades a platform of pleasuring techniques and communication skills, and what I've found is that people need what they need most from me is kind of the meta structure. Okay, what am I going for? How do I
Mm.
dispel the myths of repression and patriarchy and colonial oppression, which in India, especially, you're dealing with
Yeah.
so much of that as well. So are we here in the US, racism, etc. And how do you dispel those myths and get to what is true and science-based? And that's a lot of what I try to do, is I try to give overachievers this notion of what they're going for. So even when I explain what I do, 3 things: bedroom communication skills, pleasuring techniques, which includes understanding your own anatomy and how your body works, and
Mm.
then the next one is intimate wellness. How do you keep your parts in good working condition? How do you deal with all of the problems that happen, whether it's erectile dysfunction or premature ejaculation or prostate issues or loss of sensation? For women, loss of lubrication,
Mm.
inability to orgasm, difficulty achieving climax, urinary incontinence, thinning of the vaginal tissue, labial and vaginal laxity, clitoral atrophy. We've got all these things that happen to us as we age, but all of them are reversible. So if you think to yourself, okay, my key takeaways from this conversation with Susan and Sana are: pleasuring is good for me, whether it's solo or partnered. There are 3 areas of the world of sexuality that I need to focus on. One is learning how to be a good communicator. That includes knowing what you want and how to ask for it with your partner in a way that's really helping them give you the pleasure you're looking for. Moaning, dirty talk, pillow talk, sharing fantasies, talking to each other about your sexual pleasure. That's the communication piece. And then the pleasuring piece is, kissing, full body touch, orgasmic activation, orgasmic potential, oral pleasuring, intercourse, anal course, all of those kinds of things, role play, all of the fun things you can do with sexuality, whatever your predilections are. So learning the skills to be a good lover. And then, of course, the intimate wellness piece, which is how do you keep everything working well? So, like vacuum erection devices, red light therapy, acoustic wave technologies, taking nitric oxide, eating your leafy greens, using lubricants that aren't full of chemicals. So if you think about those 3 things, okay, sex is good for me. I need to have it with myself and my partners. And I need to learn these 3 areas. Now you know. That's all you need to know. Then you enter into the world of your sexuality at whatever place, wherever you are. How do I get a partner? What do I say to them? How do I lose my virginity? That's your basics. All the way up to, my wife or my husband and I, we have, or my boyfriend or my girlfriend or my partner, we have incredible sex. What else can we do together? Where do we go from where we are to where somebody like Susan Bratton, who has studied hot sex and has incredible hot sex, what would she tell me is possible for me? What are some options for my next steps? And I have an answer for that, but I'll stop talking for a second.
No, no, Susan, you can go and you can. I think many of our listeners will be curious to know about that, how we can take it to the next level.
Yeah, so there are 2 things. One is that, most people are like, I'm not sure, like, a lot of people are in relationships and their sex life is only mediocre, and they know
Mhm.
it, but they don't know how to make it better. And the answer to that is erotic play dates. This idea that instead of and when you're busy, when you're an overachiever, like your listeners are, you gotta schedule sex. But the problem is scheduling sex is like scheduling eating oatmeal. Like, you don't wanna eat any more oatmeal. You've had plenty. You know what oatmeal tastes like. You don't want that anymore. What do why are you going to eat some bland thing and make time for it? It's boring. And so you don't. You end up being a workaholic. You work till 9 o'clock and then you watch TV and then you go to bed. You don't have, you don't pleasure yourself or pleasure your partner. So how do you find a meal that's going to be much more exciting? How do you look forward to having sex? You create these erotic play dates. Erotic play dates are learning new things together because there's a very simple equation around sexuality, and that is that you need safety and security. You need to trust that your partner's not gonna hurt you, you're not gonna contract STIs, you're safe to be yourself and to let your armor down and to, you feel accepted in your body and you feel connected and heart connected, and that's great, but that creates boredom after a while, just having that. You need novelty and variety to generate more desire. So when you move from feeling like you have to schedule sex to looking forward to an erotic play date where you're going to learn something together, where you're going to begin as beginners together. The Buddhist beginner's mind is a very exciting way to be together in relationship. It creates that new relationship energy that we're looking for, that we get when we're first with someone, but we lose when we're with someone for a long time. You can get that back no matter how long you've been together, no matter how bored you are with a partner. You can always recreate a renaissance in your sexual relationship by trying new things together, getting out of your rut. And for that, I have a solution, and it's called the Sex Life Bucket List. It's free, and it's at sexlifebucketlist.com, and it's 48 erotic play dates. And it comes with a video that I recorded for you. If you are lucky enough to have a partner, you could watch the video together. You get a downloadable PDF with the 48 play dates on it. And when you go through the video, I walk you through what they all are and you mark them an A, a B, or a C. A is, oh, I want this on my bucket list. B is, "Oh, it's not for me, but if you want to do it, I would do it." And C is, it's not for me right now. And then you merge your A lists, and then you have a plan that you can work to learn new experiences together.
Oh, bucket list. That's exciting. That's really, really interesting, Susan.
Thank you. Thanks, Sana.
So, in the interest of time, Susan, of course, if our listeners they would like to further connect with you, and of course, all the resources that you mentioned, the
Yeah.
exciting ones, what would be the best way?
The best way would be to go to betterlover.com and sign up for my newsletter. I send out 2 emails a week with passionate lovemaking techniques and bedroom communication skills and intimate wellness information. And at any time you have any question, whether it's about something that I sent in the email or it's just something totally different, you're welcome to reply and I'll respond to your question. It goes directly to my inbox. The replies to those emails don't go to my care team, they go to me personally. So the best way to connect with me is that, and you can also follow me on Instagram. It's my name, but you have to smoosh it together. You have to use it as one word, Susan Bratton, all one word, and then you'll find me because I do get a lot of imposters who will make, alternative accounts. I'm constantly whacking them all.
I know, I know. Oh, great. Awesome. I'll make sure to have all the links in the show notes for our listeners to easily access all the exciting, hot resources that you're sharing, Susan. And wow, this is such a hot and really, really super, super critical conversation because not only it reminds us that success isn't just about output, it's about the quality of energy we are bringing to the table, whether it's with our partners or with ourselves. And I think pleasure isn't a distraction from our goals, Susan. I think it's a source of um, clarity, creativity, and courage that we need to reach them. So, thank you so much for vehemently bringing this up for all of us.
Thank you, son.
So, to all the listeners out there, oh my goodness. The next step in your success story isn't another all nighter. but a night that leaves you feeling truly alive, electrified. And here's to being a pleasure powered achiever. Until then, this is your host, Sana, signing off. Thank you.